Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cracking open the universal mechanics of human communication. I want you to think of the language you use every single day, not just as a random collection of sounds, but as a multidimensional matrix. It's this incredibly precise architectural system where words actually act as physical tokens in a grand nested machine. We're going to explore systemic functional linguistics, specifically diving into the brilliant frameworks established by Halliday and Hasan. Basically, we're looking at language with the precision of a cognitive scientist, decoding the invisible physics that literally hold our sentences together. So let's dive right into this.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with 1, the architecture of cohesion. Move to 2, semantics versus lexicogrammar. Hit 3, nominal substitution, the counter. 4, the mechanics of repudiation. 5, verbal substitution with do. And finally, wrap up with 6, the unified cohesive system. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The architecture of cohesion, the internal gravity of text. Now, to really grasp substitution, we first have to understand cohesion. Imagine a text as a giant, intricate, nested machine. Cohesion? Well, that's the internal gravity of that machine. It's the invisible force that makes a string of sentences a unified text, rather than just a random pile of unrelated thoughts. And today, we're zeroing in on a very specific mechanical gear within this system.
That specific gear is called substitution. Now, in systemic functional linguistics, substitution is defined strictly as a structural placeholder. It's a relation between linguistic items, the actual literal wording, rather than the underlying meaning. Honestly, it's exactly like a variable in a mathematical equation or a line of code. It's an empty, structural token that we drop into a sentence to replace a specific form, and it's what makes our language so incredibly efficient.
Section 2. Semantics versus lexicogrammar. The distinct language strata. What's really fascinating about this next concept is how Halliday separates language into these completely distinct architectural layers. If you want to master linguistics, you absolutely have to understand this separation. Looking right at this foundational matrix from the seminal text, you can see a crystal clear dividing line between reference and substitution. Notice how reference operates on the semantic level. So when I say he or she, I'm pointing to a meaning, a literal person out there in the real-world environment. But substitution, that operates entirely on the lexicogrammatical level. It's a level of grammar and vocabulary. It doesn't point out into the world at all. It points strictly backward or forward to another specific word within the text itself. Think of it using a spatial metaphor. The semantic level is your software, right? It's meaning-based, processing abstract ideas and interacting with the outside environment. The lexicogrammatical level, on the other hand, is your hardware. It's the strict physical circuitry of words. Substitution is purely a hardware function. It's a grammatical relation confined totally to the physical text, a linguistic counter we use so we don't have to awkwardly repeat the exact same word over and over. Which brings us to Section 3, nominal substitution, the counter. The crucial point here is understanding exactly how these words act as mechanical counters in our linguistic code. In English, this system is beautifully categorized by its grammatical function. We basically have 3 main types of substitution. First, nominal, substituting for a noun using words like one or same. Second, verbal, substituting for a verb using do. And third, clausal, where we substitute an entire clause using so or not. Let's drill down into the mechanics of those nominal tokens first. This sentence brilliantly illustrates the whole concept. My axe is too blunt. I must get a sharper one. The word one, right there, it actually has 0 inherent meaning. It is quite literally an empty programming variable dropped into the head of the nominal group. It looks back at the previous sentence, finds the noun axe, and seamlessly swaps itself in. We don't have to say, I must get a sharper axe. The token one does all the heavy lifting for us. Pretty elegant, right? Let's look at Section 4, the mechanics of repudiation. Rejecting modifiers. We're now going to explore a major theoretical milestone in linguistics, the concept of repudiation. This is where the physics of language really show off their power, because it explains how our variables handle modifiers. Let's walk through this logical sequence with a classic example. We have no coal fires, only wood ones. Step 1, we identify our base item, which is coal fires. Step 2, the structural noun fires is carried over into the next clause, mathematically replaced by our token, ones. But step 3 is where the magic happens. The modifier coal is explicitly rejected, or repudiated, to make room for a brand new modifier, would. The core structure holds firm, but the specific definition is updated on the fly. As we see in this excerpt from the source text, Halliday explains that in any anaphoric context, which just means when we look back at previous text, something is carried over. But if only a part is carried over, the remainder absolutely must be repudiated. Repudiation is essentially the linguistic mechanism of generating a brand new subset from a previously established category. We keep the category of fires, sure, but we repudiate coal so we can introduce wood. And this quote encapsulates it perfectly. A substitute is a carrier. That empty token 1 becomes a vessel for new contrastive information. In Halliday's text, he uses the example of changing from bullets made of platinum to leaden ones. The token 1s carries the noun bullets, but it allows you to completely strip away platinum and seamlessly replace it with leaden. It is a highly efficient way to update data in a conversation. Moving on to Section 5, verbal substitution with do. Let's shift our focus away from nouns for a second and examine how actions are structurally substituted across this architectural matrix. Because nouns aren't the only things that get placeholders. Halliday pulls this fantastic example straight from Alice in Wonderland. Words did not come the same as they used to do. Here, the substitute do occupies the final position in the verbal group. It reaches back into the sentence, grabs the lexical verb come, and replaces it. It's the exact same mechanical process we just saw with nouns, just applied to actions. I love this because it highlights the elegant, almost mathematical symmetry of the English language. Both nominal and verbal groups have a logical structure with a core thing or action, and both have their own designated empty substitution counters. Nouns get 1, verbs get do. They sit firmly at the grammatical level, keeping our language fast, fluid, and fiercely cohesive, without ever repeating the underlying semantic data unless we absolutely have to. All right, Section 6, the unified cohesive system, variables and tokens. Let's zoom back out for a second. We've looked at the micro-level physics, the tokens, the repudiation, the counters. Now let's see how all these variables unite to create a cohesive systemic architecture. Table 5 from the text is amazing because it reveals the sheer multidimensional complexity of a seemingly simple word like one. Depending on its grammatical environment, one is kind of a shapeshifter. It can be a substitute token, a personal pronoun, or even a cardinal numeral. The system maps its class, its function as a head or a modifier, and even its phonological status, meaning whether we actually put stress on it when we're speaking out loud. Breaking down that data proves something absolutely vital. Not every one is a substitute. If I say one never knows, that's just a generic pronoun. It doesn't substitute for anything. If I say I have one, stressing the word, that's a cardinal numeral. It is only the nominal substitute, unstressed, functioning as a head of a group, and carrying over a previous noun that operates as this specific, elegant, cohesive variable we've been analyzing today. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway. We've seen how systemic functional linguistics proves that everyday language isn't just a loose flow of meaning. It is governed by a strict grammatical physics. We have empty tokens, structural variables, and mechanisms of repudiation running quietly in the background of literally every conversation we have. So I want to leave you with this. If our language operates on such an elegant, almost mathematical system of shifting variables, how might this invisible mechanical architecture shape the very logic of the thoughts we speak? It's a fascinating question. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the architecture of your world.